Welcome back to The Price of Business, which today is brought to you by our friends at Efficient Wealth Management, superinterns.com, and Chris Kidd Enterprises. Talking to my good friend Tony Powers of italkus.com, a great radio host. Talk about what's happening on the political front, and we were talking a little bit about Donald Trump, where you just can't, that guy has sucked up so much oxygen, and so much of the air of the political debate. It's really, really tough for everyone else. And then you've got such a plethora of candidates that are so much like one another that, it's very difficult to stick out. And I can't believe, for example, how quickly, you've got our governor, who is considered, our former governor, Rick Perry, who is considered a conservative rock star and still kind of considered that. But already he's on the process on of his way out. He's lost his chair in Iowa, that guy's now defected over to Donald Trump, of all people, which kind of goes to show, Tony Powers, that it's not just the newbie. This guy, my understanding, who was working with Perry, had some pretty serious legs. Now, I don't know if he's going to Trump because it's financially profitable for him to go to Trump or what, but that guy seems like someone who I would think knows better.
Well, this is something that the political talking class has got to worry about. Donald Trump actually getting some professionals around him who will give him some advice on policy. And this might be very bad news for the rest of the field, as you pointed out. Here we are. We're talking about Donald Trump. Donald Trump gets more earned media. He doesn't have to pay a dime to get name recognition. He now has the most name recognition of any candidate, including Hillary Clinton, in this campaign. I mean, the guy is just phenomenal the way he's able to manipulate the media, and they keep falling for it. ABC, NBC, CBS, you name it, Fox News, they're all talking about Donald Trump, and we're talking about Donald Trump. So you're right, he's sucking all the oxygen out of the room. And the rest of the candidates, they're gasping for air. And as you pointed out, Rick Perry, I think he's pretty much on the way out. You have another great Texan down there, Ted Cruz, who is my choice. But Ted Cruz can't seem to get a break these days. He is moving up in the polls, but I think he's still in single digits. And Trump now is at 40 in this latest poll. And I think Ben Carson, another non-politician, is at 13, and the rest of them are in single digits.
They're bent on a non-politician. They're bent on a non-politician. And frankly, of all the non-politicians, and this is funny because, in that group, because I'm, pretty strong libertarian in my bent, as you well know. I'm kind of a classical liberal is really what I am. And I think ideologically, Carson may agree with me more, but there's something about Carly Fiorina that I really like, and she comes across to me as presidential. Of the non-political, non-professionals, if you will, I kind of like Carly the most.
Well, I like her too, but even when Ted Cruz, you remember when everybody blamed Ted Cruz for shutting down the government back in 2013, and everybody was all worried about that and how it was going to affect the 2014 election. Carly Fiorina was on the side of the establishment then, and she said, Cruz it was all wrong for him to do that, when actually it was all right for him to do that, and Ted Cruz should have been doing what he did, and others should have stood with him, and had they done that, we might have actually seen a little progress and seen Obama have to cave. But no, they all caved, and Carly Fiorina was on the side of the establishment then. I don't know, maybe she's changed, but now she's talking very much anti-establishment. That may work for her. I hope she gets on the main stage in this CNN debate, because I think she would be great against Hillary Clinton. But now I'm wondering if Hillary Clinton's going to be the nominee.
That's a good segue. And by the way, of the candidates, my favorite three remain Scott Walker, Ted Cruz, and Rand Paul. I like those three. It's again that libertarian bent, and although Scott Walker has distanced himself from libertarians, I think more so than he should have. Scott Walker, libertarians like Scott Walker because he actually does what he says he's going to do, and he does it very courageously and with a lot of swagger.
Oh yeah, he's a fighter, and again, that's something that would be attractive to the voters. So, assuming that Donald Trump will eventually implode, I don't know at this point. I'm thinking he might make it all the way. Let's hope not. But should he do it, or should he implode, I think that would give Scott Walker a real good shot at this, Ted Cruz a real good shot at this. And I still haven't given up hope on Rand Paul. I think Rand Paul, he is more closely aligned with my views because I call myself a conservatarian.
Yeah, I'm a conservatarian too. I think that's what a classical liberal is, Tony, is a conservatarian. The term.
Right. So I'm looking at Ted Cruz. I love Ted Cruz. He is my choice, but Rand Paul would be my ideal choice. I just don't know that he has the charisma that is going to be able to get him across the line. Ted Cruz does have that.
Yeah, that's right. And let me tell you, as this debate gets smaller and smaller, the number of people in it, you're going to see Ted Cruz rise to the top. He's the best debater of the entire group. And, when you got 10 people on a stage, you really can't see that. You're going to see that when it's 4 or 5 on there. It's going to become an interesting thing there. Ideologically, I, too, am closer to Rand Paul. I think the Bill of Rights is the single most important issue facing our country today. The Bill of Rights are being crushed. The Bill of Rights have been transformed into something to protect the government rather than protect the people, which that was clearly what they were designed to do. The Bill of Rights were designed as a reaction to the Anti-Federalist Papers, which simply said this Constitution, the way it is now, is going to lead into really into a dictatorship. And really the only way you could get a dictatorship in this country is by completely disregarding those first 10 amendments designed to protect us from the state. And we're doing that on virtually every one of the amendments, Tony Powers.
Oh, yeah, and I'm very much a constitutionalist, and that's why I like Rand Paul. I really love Rand Paul. And I like Ted Cruz, too, because I think Ted Cruz is going to stand up for the Constitution. And he's right on this 14th Amendment thing, and he's right on the birthright citizenship. That was never the intent of the 14th Amendment, and we've never had a case where people who were here illegally, and that's been the case, they keep pointing out these cases where somebody was legally here in the United States, and they want to claim that because courts found in their favor, it's people who are here illegally who should not be getting these anchor baby status.
That's right.
And Ted Cruz understands that, and he can articulate it, I think, better than the rest.
No question. You mentioned Hillary, and I got on my own tandem because that's what you do when you have your own show. You know this. But Hillary is in big trouble. I mean, it sounds like she could be looking at an indictment. It could lead to should for anyone else would lead to prison time. It won't lead to that for her. But if you're the Democrats, I'm thinking you're scrambling to find someone else. And now, of course, Joe Biden, there's a lot of talk about him and a lot of sympathetic conversation for Joe because of his loss of his son, Bo, and I think is very sincere, his concerns and anxieties about it. Those two were very close, and he seemed to be an awesome dad, from what I can tell. And so it's interesting to see how the Democrat situation is panning out.
I would actually be, a lot of people scoff at crazy Uncle Joe, but I'd be a little worried about him because he will get a lot of sympathy votes. And if he were to run and say, I'm only going to run for one term, and if he had a really strong VP candidate, and he's been talking to Elizabeth Warren.
Yep.
If he had Elizabeth Warren as his VP, and he ran with that ticket, that would be a tough ticket to beat.
I think you're right. I really do. I mean, all we can hope for is one of his verbal mental strokes to happen, where he starts saying bizarre stuff, which happens pretty often. But, it's all a question of timing. And if he gets his meds regulated, good luck with that. But he's a likable guy, very likable, and he can speak well when he's not going through one of his, weird tandems. And, it seems like the quintessential family guy, for what I can tell. And those are good qualities, and those are the kind of qualities you want in a leader. So, I just wish we could get a lot of policy positions that he would bring. But I don't see that happening. So, final thoughts from you before I let you go.
Well, I think we may be looking at Joe Biden as the Democrat nominee, and let's just hope that Trump finally puts his foot in it so much that the people get tired of it. Right now, it looks pretty grim, and let's hope for a Ted Cruz or a Rand Paul or maybe a Scott Walker. We've got to have a conservative, though. Or this country is in serious trouble. Serious trouble.
All right, that's the man, my very good friend, Tony Powers. Powers to the people. When we come back, we're going to have much more for you. If you want to remind you, best content here shows up over there at usdailyreview.com. While there, like it on Facebook, follow it on Twitter.